Regan Todd had harness racing running through his veins long before he got involved in the harness racing game. The Wyndham native, a proud Southlander, started out with Snow McClellan, moved north to David and Catherine Butt, and ultimately with Mark Jones, learnt his trade. In this episode of One on One, we get a chance to find out how he's gone about climbing up the Trainers Premiership ladder and what's ahead for this young gun in harness racing. Regan, when we look through the family heritage, I guess harness racing was always in the blood, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what Dad always told me. It was always going to be in the blood, and I probably didn't have much choice really.
If we go a couple of generations back, maybe three, to your great-granddad, which was Doody, he had an outstanding mare called Blue Mist.
Yeah, she was very good. I think she ended up winning an Inter-Dominion or something in Perth, but your Dad he got out the books the other day, and funny enough, she'd won 2 races in a day. She won race 7, and they walked around a bit, and then she went out afterwards and run race 8.
That's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Well, it certainly doesn't happen in this day and age.
No.
And your grandfather, whose colours that you use in training, pretty handy horseman too.
Yeah, see, unfortunately he passed away before I was born. He passed away just after my sister was born, and
so that was Ray.
Ray,
Yep.
yep. So yeah, Ray, he passed away. I think he was only 49, so he passed away far too young. And I just grew up reading newspaper articles and watching race replays. Really,
some pretty nice horses like Adios Adieu. He had that horse before it went to the Maze, and some other pretty handy ones too.
Yeah, he always sort of had a handy team, and you know they're pretty lucky back then. Wyndham was a bit quieter. They used to run them over the bridge and up the road down to the track. Pretty
proud Wyndham boy, aren't you?
Absolutely, she's a good place to grow up in.
I've spent a little bit of time there with Loopy Lee over the years, so yeah, it is really heartland harness racing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is somewhere to be proud of, you know, where to be from, Youngquin Raceway and that. And as you said, Loopy and Colin, they're just down the road from where I was brought up, so quite often see me with the school bag on and jump on the side of a sulky way to school.
Now, your dad had a pretty smart 3-year-old, in fact, a flying stakes, which was the key lead-up race to the Derby, and Happy Patron, so he's had a little bit of luck ownership-wise. Yeah,
they sort of got left that horse when Grandad passed away, so he was really good to them. He won the flying stakes, of course, and then 3rd in the Derby, and that sort of set them up.
So what about school in Wyndham? Tell me what that was like.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of school. They made the fatal mistake of building it right beside a racecourse, so yeah, I was never going to last there too long.
So what's your earliest memories of say, the harness horses, and when did you have your first drive, that sort of thing?
Just, yeah, I was always brought up around them. We'd always go to the races with Mum and Dad, and Dad always used to work for Snow McClellan in the off-season of the freezing work, so I'd always be tagging along there and drive the jog ute, and I think I would have been 10 or 12 when I had my first drive. I was actually training for the bloke now, Noddy Orr, had a share in it, motoring Sally. So
Noddy Orr, the former Southland prop.
Yeah, I'll always remember
that. Schooling-wise, so rugby, that was a big part of it, eating your lunch, that sort of thing, and you love your rugby, don't you?
Yeah, always been a big fan of footy, just a typical Southland boy. You always wanted to play for the Wyndham Seniors, the Stags, Highlanders and All Blacks, but yeah, that sort of fell away pretty quick.
Where did you get to?
I played a few games for the Wyndham Seniors, yeah, not too many, but yeah, went to the old shoot up and the old beanpole stage back then, and used to get the odd concussion. So
what position were you, mate?
I was centre wing back then, so I sort of got chucked out
in
the
back. Of pace, mate.
No, I think that's the only spot they had left.
So you talked before and mentioned Snow McClellan. That's where you went straight from school, or how did that work?
Yeah. I was very young. I left school real early and went straight to Snow's, and that was the start of it all really. Him and Megan sort of took me in, and they were really, really good to me.
They've always been very good horse people and had some decent horses. It's Ella's one that springs to mind, who won a couple of Breeders' Stakes from memory. And I think was driven by David Butt. Is that how that all sort of worked out? How long were you working at Snow and Megan's until you came up here for what was a 3-month stint at that stage?
Would have been at Snow's for about 2 years, and yeah, then I slowly started coming up. Chennai Patron was one.
Chennai Patron, yeah.
Always used to jump in the car with Snow and the owners and come up and watch her, and that's when I sort of really got the bug for it, and yeah, things just sort of snowballed, as you say, from there.
Yeah, so you come up and work for David and Catherine, and you drive your first winner.
Yes. No, he was a very good horse, that one. John Hay owned him, and
Die Another Day.
He done a power of work that day, and he actually went on to win 3 in a row after that, I think. So he was very smart, but Gav Smith did tell me, he said, just stay out of trouble and you'll be right. So
Google Gav. Well, I'll tell you what, you did exactly what he said, because you saw a bit of the Addington Raceway.
It was a searching run, and no, I'll take my hat off to the horse, that one. It was a mighty effort.
But in saying that, Regan, you actually did a pretty good job as a junior. You drove over 70 winners, so you don't do that unless you got some ability in the bike. How much did you enjoy the driving?
Used to live and breathe it. Like that's what sort of, you didn't worry about training then. You wanted to be the next Ricky May or Tony Herlihy. So I was very lucky. I drove some very nice horses. The people down south, they're awesome. Like, they used to put me on. I was a nobody. Like, they could have got John Dunn or Gav. Used to go down every week and drive them, and they're always very loyal. That's what I loved about it. They'd always put you on and give you a crack. And then once I moved up to Davey and Cass, we got some very good opportunities.
Your last winning drive was on a former Derby winner in Captain Peacock, and that's 6 or 7 years ago. What made you decide that I'm going to concentrate on and we'll get to how the training started, but why have you pretty much given the driving away?
Just, I'm a big fan of next week as well. Like, I always found, you even asked Mark Jones, I probably overdrove him a bit too. Sometimes you'd probably go out there with one idea in your head, whereas when I sort of got a bit older and wiser, I'd always, think of the horse and what you got to do during the week, and after a hard run, it does take a lot to pick them back up.
First training success, and Snow was doing the driving, Del Sur, and it came from last.
Yeah, that worked out great. I actually...
Why weren't you on? Why weren't you driving?
It was down at Gore,
right.
So yeah, we just sent it back home. I was looking after the horse up here for Snow, and I sent it back down there, and we actually had to get Granddad's old, original colours out of the wardrobe, so right. They're a bit short on Snowy that day, but it's quite cool how he drove me first winner.
So then it was about that time that I think you started with Mark Jones, sort of 2009, somewhere around there. Have I got the timeline about right?
Yeah, it would have been about that time I left Davey and Cass and went to work for Mark.
He had a big team, and he had a very good team. You would have learned a lot from Snow, learned a lot more from David and Catherine Butt, and then on top of that, Mark Jones at that stage was flying.
Yeah, Mark he'd just taken over from Bruce Nagus, and he had Greg Brody those days. Sometimes he'd have a dozen in work, like phenomenal team and a lot of courage under fires, and he was doing a good job. So yeah, I've been, when you mention those 3 people, I've been very lucky for who I've worked for, really.
Yeah, when you think about some of the horses he had through that period, and you mentioned some then, but Crystal Star, and She's One of the Boys, who pretty sure won a Derby.
Yep.
My Man Dan, Unique Star. A fair old team, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to drive some of them too. I think Unique Star was the first winner I drove for Mark. It was a junior claim or a boys race, and won the Darren DeFilippi on him too. Like, he was a super funny horse. He'd either go away and smash them, or he wouldn't go at all. So.
Pacing bred? Was it pacing bred? Yeah.
No, he was trotting bred, but he did used to. I think he had a crack at pacing too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that period of your life, is that what encouraged you to get into the training side of things? Were you starting to think about it then?
Yeah, absolutely. Just I don't know how it sort of grew on me. Just one day, sort of thought, this isn't bad, and you knew you're always going to be doing the game for the rest of my life. I knew that, and I just sort of thought driving wise with the, you know, all the young guys coming through, there's some pretty smart ones that I was getting around with in the boys champs and that, and you know, they've gone on with it and done a super job. But
some of them with Dunn in their name.
Yeah, that Dexter fella come along.
He was all right.
You know, you got like Zach Butcher and Josh Dickey and all those guys. Like they're still going.
Real talent. Yeah.
That's the thing, and yeah, I was just below them in the pecking order, so I was quite happy. I knew to keep going in the game, I'd have to start doing something else.
And along came Dave Clements. Now, he provided you with a lot of your early training successes, didn't he?
Yeah, see, at Marks, we had a good deal going. I was allowed 2 or 3 in work, sort of never had many more than that. And yeah, they had a good mare called
Star Rhapsody?
Star Rhapsody. So something phenomenal. I had about 16 winners from the one mare or even more. Like, imagine that come along when you're young, and yeah, I was very lucky.
So some of Star Rhapsody's foals, nothing short of outstanding. The best one, Rocket Star?
Absolutely. See, I think he used to put those red colours on sometimes and thought it was bulletproof, because there's one night there I was 3 wide the trip at Forbury Park against a horse, Harley Earl. Like, he was pretty smart.
Brendan Hills, yep.
And yeah, we rolled them. So no, he was a really good horse, that fella.
I think he ended up winning about 15 races.
Yeah, he ended up in Perth. He ran second in the Chariots of Fire and won some good races over there for Team Bond. So he was, he probably got the driving going for me, really. Like, he's one of the better ones that I drove straight away, and people start putting you on their ones, don't they?
Speed Star, I think it won about 11. Many of these horses won races here, and then Dave was able to sell them. So he's Clements Drilling, is it Clements?
Yeah, he's got the Clements Drilling business in Kaipoi there, and he actually got into that through his grandmother. He had no interest in horses at all, and his uncle Bill McDonald, he bred them all, and Dave...
He had some pretty good horses. Starship
and all those ones. It's all the same breed, and yeah, no, he fell on his feet really. Once he bought her, he started breeding, and yeah, away they went.
He fell on his feet, and that was a pretty good start to your training career, just quietly.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I said, you wouldn't win 16 races out of one mare, would you?
Master Lavros, he was pretty much the catalyst for Mark wanting a spot out at the beach, and you and Kippy, as he was known, the horse, went hand in hand, and out you went.
Yeah, so sort of that came about. I started taking him out there on the float, and like, it was a 3-hour round trip. By the time you go out there, work him, float him home, and we sort of knew, you know, we sort of had to do something about it, and a spot come up at Davey and Caff's again, and sort of I was quite keen to sort of broaden my horizons a bit more and start training a few more on my own. So yeah, it worked out great, really.
What was it like having a horse of his calibre and the opportunity to look after him? And Mark made no secret of the fact that essentially you trained him. Yes, he was the trainer down in the race book, but he left pretty much up to you, didn't he?
Yeah, see, I always used to have him on. I used to say, you load the gun and I'll fire the bullets. So, but you know, that was great of Mark. He, you know, every time he won a Dominion or a Group 1, he'd always give me, you know, the big heads up and thanks very much. But he didn't have to do that. At the end of the day, I was working for him. It was my job. But yeah, he was a very special horse to both of us.
Multiple Group 1 winner. What was your favourite? What was the most important one for you? What was the one that you thought, yeah, he's done it?
I'd have to go with the second Dominion, just with what was going on beforehand. You know, a lot of people wrote him off, and you know, probably thought we had his backs against the wall a bit. But once he got around Kaikoura and that, I sort of said to Mark, we're on the right track here, and he was probably a little bit disappointed. Him and Stent went to war, and we sort of come off second best. And I think that a good trotter from up north might have won if Tony Grayling's come down the outer, and I knew we were on the right track, but it was sort of, you know, people might have thought we're mad, but we had a big goal in mind, and yeah, to pull that off, it was just wow. It
was probably the winning of the Dominion though, softening Stent up in that, because when he did come looking, he was allowed there, wasn't he? He was allowed to get there and get the front.
Yeah, no, he was on his day. He was very, very good.
Gee, he had some good horses there. Some of the beach trained horses like Ahoka Texas, who obviously loved that that different environment. Is that fair to say? And is that part of the reason why, and we're in Lavros Lodge now, you're able to mix things up for the horses and freshen yourself up from time to time?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you do probably get sick of doing the same thing day to day, but I'm so lucky I can come to a place like this and then the beach as well. Like I got the best of both worlds, if anything.
Regan, how does your week sort of pan out, or is it not always by design? It's more about what the tides are doing.
Yeah. See, some days it works out perfect. I can, because I live out Wood End. I can go to the beach first, get them done, and then come over here and do some over here as well. But yeah, it's all tide dependent, so we sort of just got to work in and just map it out, just wing it and do it as you go, really.
Sevilla Patrol was another really good horse that you and Mark had a good association with. So that period of time has really given you the grounding, if you like, to do your own thing. So you broke away from, or not broke away, but you basically went on your own from about 2017, somewhere around there?
Yeah, I just slowly started getting a few more on my own, but I'm looking back, I'm so glad that I didn't just go on my own straight away, that I had a few of Mark's, and we had 15 of his and 3 or 4 of mine, and it sort of gave me time to sort of think about things and work out what I was doing properly and
what sort of trainer you are.
Yeah, and just sort of get all that sort of thing worked out, and then away we went.
Away you went. You trained about 18 winners that first season with horses like KTO Denario and Hopeful Harriet, and they were winning quite nicely, thanks very much.
Yeah, see, Hopeful Harriet, she ended up winning the Marlborough Cup and those sort of races, so that year sort of that got us going, and people sort of thought, we'll send that fella a horse.
Was that when Sam Otley, she was driving predominantly your team?
Yeah, she was out at the beach there with us at that stage too, so no, she's drove a lot of winners for me and she's done a great job. Yeah,
and she moved from there, and was Robbie close there at that stage, or was he still on his way? Yeah,
Robbie had just started there too, but he had Sam to start with, then Robbie come and Sam went back to Mark's, of course, and then the Goose took over.
The Goose, well, you've had 180 training successes, and I think he's driven nearly half of them, so he's been a big part of your success, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going really good. Like, you just see him mature the last couple of seasons, and it's good to see him doing well. Like, he's done really well for himself.
Regan, so many of your horses have been, I don't want to be detrimental to them, but cast-offs of someone else, or horses looking for a new environment. You've almost got to another level now, though, where you're going to the yearling sales and buying horses, and you've got some bigger owners, some from Southland as well, who've stuck with you. It's an exciting time in your training life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But when you say about the ones that the cast-offs and that, like, if I didn't have the beach, I wouldn't have got them to get the ball rolling. So it's worked out pretty good like that. But yeah, it is looking around the team now, and with the young stock and that, it is pretty exciting. So hopefully we're on to bigger and better things.
How do you go sitting at the yearling sales now, knowing that you've got a bit of money in the back pocket and you can actually play a bit?
Oh, I get nervous as hell. Yeah, no, you'd think every dollar was mine, but it is great going to sales, because you're sort of getting what you want, and you breed one, you don't know what's going to come out of the mare. So yeah, like, sometimes you nearly go home with nothing. Like, yeah, you gotta really do your homework. I learnt that.
Funny you mentioned the nerves. Little birdie told me when Master Lavros was going around, it was a little bit like 10 minutes before a rugby game about to kick off.
Yeah.
You could get the churn in the stomach, couldn't you?
Yeah. I have been known to have the odd dry reach, and that, I don't know where it comes from, but yeah, playing footy and that, I'll be in the warm up and the boys will be doing the stretches, and here I am in the hedge. But it was quite awkward, because I always thought you'd been out the night before and hadn't even had a beer. So yeah, just always been like that. But I think that's just because you're putting the pressure on yourself, and it means a lot to you, the work that you put in, and you want them to do good out there.
Do good? Well, a horse that did exactly that for you was Showgate. Tell me how you ended up with her.
Yeah, it was pretty random actually. I was just tooling away at the beach one day, and Nat Rasmussen rung up and said, "Oh, the truck's on its way with a couple of horses for you. There's a wee trotter there that I don't mind, and the other one, poor old Mickey Guerin had a share in it. She said, I don't know about it, but the trotter will be all right." And yeah, she was dead right. Mickey's one didn't run very fast, and the other one was Showgate.
Wow, one on debut at Timaru. That wasn't the most auspicious win though, because you grab yourself a Group 1 in Australia, the Breeders' Crown, with none other than M. Purdon sitting in the bike.
Yeah, no, he's a master, that guy, and it was a huge privilege to have someone like him driving her. And yeah, it was an unreal trip with him, really. I learnt so much.
You would have been, again, the sponge, just gleaning all that sort of information, and he's very open with that stuff, isn't he? He would have helped you out a lot, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. Like, even, me and Poi Bowden were looking after them, and we had Princess Tiffany and another masterpiece. I think they're 2-year-olds of the year here, so you imagine me getting out there driving them in track work was pretty exciting. But yeah, Mark, it was such a huge help over there. He just let me do my own thing. He never sort of told you how to work it, or I'd always be bouncing ideas off him.
Yep.
But yeah, you see why he's so good at what he does, because like I was quite keen to take her to Mountain the week before for a race, and he sort of said, "Well, you're going to be racing older horses, might be a bit hard." He said, "How about a trial?" So yeah, he rolled his ankle that morning. I was dry reaching that day too, because I thought, "Oh, who's going to drive it at the trial?" But we got him out of the deathbed, and away he went. She went super, but he said to Paul, "If this thing draws good, it'll go close to winning."
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't tell me that. It would have been a long week.
Our Showgate, Moonshine Linda, 4 of them across the track. Moonshine Linda, our Showgate wide, our Showgate hit the lead. Moonshine Linda trying to cut it down but missed. Our Showgate from Moonshine Linda, the great redeemer, and Pretty Majestic.
26 wins that year. Are you a goal setter? Do you do that at the start of each season? Are you thinking of a figure?
Yeah, I'd always have in the back of my mind to beat the year that you had previously. So every year we sort of try to do that, and once we sort of got to this year, I think it was 38 this year we had to get to, and I said to the boys, well, 40 will be good, so you just got to keep going.
And you've done exactly that, because you went 26, 27, 38 in the COVID year. Now that took some doing, because we had 3 months off.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you sort of add them up, it could have been quite a good year this year, just man.
And I think that was the first year you beat M. Jones in the Premiership too. Did you mention that to him at any stage?
Oh no! You don't go chucking those things into him, because he'll remind me next year if he rolls past me.
43 wins, a big year, a big season for you. You had a winner on Cup Day, Cheezel. Big thrill, but almost a bigger thrill having your first Cup starter.
Yeah, that was pretty special how that worked out. Especially been great mates with Bob for years, and to have them. We went to the Cup dinner and I spoke about it, to have him driving it was pretty cool. And I didn't really get nervous that day. I was just sort of taking it all in and think, oh, it's not too bad, wouldn't mind getting a few more in here.
Yeah, the fixer we're talking about, of course, a previous winner. So, and nobody expected him to be winning the Cup. Did that help?
I think it does help you going in a bit of an underdog, so you can just concentrate on what you're doing. And it probably looked like he just went average, but as everyone knows, it was an absolute shambles of a start, and the race was over before he got going. So, but to come out on the free for all the day, on the Friday, that was pretty special. I was screaming him home that day.
Regan, you've got him back hopefully for another Cup 2. What's the preparation? And now you've been through one, have you got in your own mind how you need to build towards the big second Tuesday in November?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably been a real good thing for me having him last year. I sort of know what he needs and what he doesn't need, and I sort of worked him out a bit better. But he got a scan today and everything's perfect, so he's got 2 weeks of next step in the preparation. We'll start upping his work, and he'll have a shockwave therapy, and it's a quiet week in the pool, and then we can start getting serious about things.
I know, coming from Southland, any time you get a chance to take a horse down there, particularly for a group race, it's something that you're very keen on doing. What did it mean to you winning the Southland Oaks with better torque. That must have been a big, big buzz.
Yeah, it might sound a bit strange, but that's up there with one of my biggest thrills in racing, you know, because I was brought up down there and I always used to go to those days. It used to be the Southland Oaks and Supremacy. So to win it, and then we run second in the Supremacy, it was a pretty unreal day, really.
Yeah, look, she has done a magic job. Mind you, first start, Ashburton Cup week, 257.6, not many maidens do that.
Yeah, she always showed a bit, but to her credit, she has kept getting better. Like at home, you sort of wouldn't think much of her, but yeah, she's been one out of the bag, really.
I suppose you've learned a lot over those trainers we've mentioned in your earlier years, but placement of horses seems to be something you pride yourself on, and we mentioned Cheezel won on Cup Day. Having her there to win the Uncup Gems at Auckland again was something that you had a decent plan, didn't you?
Yeah, that was probably 6 weeks in the making, and you know we got some great people in her. Trev kindly give us a 50% share in her, and I should have kept that myself, really. But Mum and Dad Syndicate, the Any Excuse Syndicate, you know, they hadn't had much luck. They'd had a couple of horses down south, hadn't done anything, so it was a good opportunity. So I put them in it, and then the Dumpster Syndicate's a few mates that we met we got a syndicate together at the Hirata Golf Tournament, the yearly one that they have. So been quite a cool story, really. But yeah, I sort of said to the boys, well, I'll mention it to Trev and see if he's keen. But I thought 40 grand race would suit her right down the ground, and yeah, to pull that off.
Was a Zach Butcher special, wasn't it?
Absolutely, like lap to go. I thought we're in a world of hurt, but yeah, she nearly ended up in a Lone Star actually, and yeah, to win it. But just to hear those fellas screaming up the straight was pretty cool.
New season, we're into it. Goal is obviously to beat last year's 43, I suppose. That's not going to be easy to do though, but you're thinking you've got some handy young stock, aren't you?
Yeah, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but yeah, it would be great to definitely beat the 43. But if you're being real ambitious, probably aim for 50, and yeah, see how we go.
One a week would be all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, I wouldn't complain.
Yeah, you don't mind a beer at the best of times, but if you could have a beer each week just to celebrate one win, that'd almost be ideal.
Yeah, you'd have one without winning anyway. I was always told to celebrate the bad times too.
Yes, you sounded exactly like a Southlander there for sure. It's pretty cool that you can involve your dad in the training side of things, and he's pretty handy around the barn, isn't he?
Yeah, Beauty Barry, he moved up about 18 months ago and he loves it, but Mum came up about 2 months after Dad moved up, and yeah, it's pretty special to have them up here, and you know they can be a part of it, but it's probably something that Dad would have loved to do in his younger days, but yeah, unfortunately he'd 4 wee snot gobblers to look after and had to put the food on the table.
Are any of the other family, are they involved?
They always follow everything. Yeah, they're always watching. And
so you've got what, a brother?
I've got older brother and 2 older sisters, so right. There's 4 kids in the family, and
you're the baby.
I'm the baby. Always got told to leave the best to last, don't you?
If you say so.
But the whole family follows. But
now the young fella I've seen at the barn, is he your nephew or?
Oh yeah, Max, my nephew.
Oh, Max, he loves it.
He's dead set keen. So Carter, my other nephew, they're the same age. They come up now and they chip in. They get the pretty bad jobs raking up leaves and all that. But
in the school holidays, yeah.
In the school holidays, you just got to bribe them with food or movies and that, and they get into it.
Do you reckon there might be another generation come through of the Todd family? Is there any chance they might get involved?
Yeah, it's hard to say what those kids will do, but you know, I'd say they're going to be pretty much like me to start with. It'll be rugby and all that, but once that flame dwindles a bit, they might look for something else.
Regan, what's the one race that you'd like to win?
Definitely a New Zealand Cup. Like to me that's the pinnacle of the game, and you know, like I said, it was quite cool just to have a horse in it. But you know, if you can win one of those, I'll be a pretty happy fella.
Hey Regan, thanks so much for taking the time out to have a chat to us. Congratulations on the way the seasons have gone in the last 3 or 4, and yeah, I think the future's pretty bright, and you look like you've got some pretty good staff around you as well, which obviously is imperative in this game.
Absolutely, I've been very lucky that way. I've always fell on my feet with my staff and vets and farriers. Like, they all do a great job, and we wouldn't be here without them.
All right, good luck in the future.
Thank you.